day, everyone. I'm the second reporter I'm the second reporter, and my topic is all about the governance of fisheries management. So, this is my subtopic. First, distinguish the various agencies involved and roles in the management and conservation of fisheries resources. And second, utilize untapped aquatic resources. Third, evaluate appropriate fishing technologies. And fourth, apply the principles of good governance, professional, and ethical standards. So, governance of fisheries management. So, what is the fisheries governance? Fisheries governance encompasses the legal, social, economic, and political frameworks that manage fisheries and international, national, and local levels. So, when we say fisheries at international, so um, ito yung mga ito yung mga international agreement between between other countries. So when we say national national level naman is these national policies and fisheries only in fisheries department. So sa local levels, between sa ano lang siya, community-based management and local fisheries council. It includes formal legal rules and informal social arrangement. Effective governance requires institution. Um, yung fisheries governance refers to system and rules na nagmamanage sa mga people na magprotektahan yung oceans, lakes, rivers, and the fish na meron dun sa aquatic sa aquatic. So um yung mga um yung mga systems na include dun is yung mga laws and policies na ginawa ng mga gobyerno. Then yung social culture naman is social culture practices used by communities, economic strategies that affect how resources are used. Then yung political decision that guide management governance happen at many levels. Yun na yung papasok na dun yung international, national, and local levels. So next, these are the agencies that involved or um, these are the agencies na may role sa management and conservation sa fisheries resources. First, we have the BFAR or the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. So, ano nga ba yung role ng BFAR? So, BFAR improves, manage, and conserves the country's fisheries and aquatic resources. Yung BFAR is they create a unenforced law, provide support to fishers, and oversees fisheries management program. Next, the Philippine Fisheries Development Authority or the PFDA, they uh, they manage fish port and related post-harvest facilities to support the fishing industry. Um, fisher, wait lang. Then, yung National Fisheries Research and Development Institute is yung role niya naman is to conduct research and development to support sustainable fisheries and aquatic practices. Then yung local government units or yung LGUs regulates and manage municipal water up to 15 kilometers from the coastline, including issuing fishing license, implementing local fisheries ordinance. So, like like for example is yung dun sa amin is yung mga local governance like yung mga barangay officials is nagre-regulate sila ng ordinance or yung mga laws, rules and regulations na um, para makakatulong para mag-conserve ng mga aquatic organisms dun sa isang community. Then yung Department of Environment and Natural Resources or yung DNR. Yung role niya is oversees the conservation of marine habitats such as mangroves and coral reefs and enforce environmental laws affecting aquatic ecosystem. So, for example na lang is yung enforces law against coral reef destruction and leads mangroves deforestation project. So yung DNR is naka-focus siya sa mga corals and sa mga environment like yung sa mga mangroves. Next, we have Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Management Council or yung FARMC. Serve serve as advisory bodies at the municipal, pro- provincial, and national levels, facilitating collaboration between government entities, and local stakeholders for effective fisheries management. Dito sa farm is, for example, uh, organizes a consultation between fisheries and local officials. For example, is yung um, may isang organization, then yung organization na yun is mag-collaborate siya sa local officials like yung mga barangay officials para para mapag-usapan dun is yung kung paano nila mapapaset like mas set up um yung paglilimit during like for example na lang is yung close season, malilimit nila yung para sa breeding season. Then next, we have Food and Agriculture Organization or yung FAO. The FAO develops global policies for sustainable fishing and aquatic prov- provides technical support to countries, collect fisheries data, and promotes conservation best practices. Its code of conduct for responsible fisheries guide nation in implementing sustainable fishing policies. So, sa FAO naman is, for example, is helps the Philippines create a national plan for sustainable tuna fishing using FAO global guidelines. Then we have here the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Yung uh, or yung IUCN is nag-conserve siya sa marine biodiversity by minomonitor niya yung species and binimaintain niya yung red list of endangered. So siya yung responsible sa mga mga endangered species. Siya yung kung ano-ano na ba yung mga endangered sa aquatic natin. And nagpo-provide din siya ng scientific data to support conservation strategies and policy decisions. So next, Regional Fisheries Management Organization. These agencies are responsible for managing fish stocks that migrate across international boundaries. This organization sets fishing quotas, implement conservation measures, and regulate fishing activities in international water. So for example na lang dito, yung set ng tuna na nahuhuli is um, nililibit lang siya ng um, Western Pacific Ocean para ma-prevent yung overfishing by overfishing by member countries, including na yung Philippines, including na tayo nasa Philippines. So, last, we have here the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. This agency naman is nagre-regulate siya ng global trade. Parang may pagkakapareho lang siya sa sa Regional Fisheries Management Organization. Nag-ano din siya sa endangered marine species na it prevents over-exploiting by imposing restriction on the international trade of fish species that are risk of of for example is yung pagbaban ng international trade of endangered species like seahorse and wool shark unless approved under strict condition. So, alam naman natin na bawal manghuli ng mga seahorse. So, may mga nakikita pa rin kasi ako na nagbebenta ng seahorse para gawing, I don't know lang kung ano yung gagawin nila doon. Something na may, parang preserved lang nila. Then, we have here ito na yung utilize untapped aquatic resources. So, when we say untapped resources, ito yung mga hindi pa nakikita or hindi pa nabibigyang pansin na mga aquatic resources. So, first, meron tayong submarine fish. As you can see sa picture, meron tayong deep sea lanternfish. So, yung potential use um, ng deep sea lanternfish is pwede siya sa fish meal production. Then, sa ano naman, big eye tuna. So, familiar naman tayo dito. Commercial fisheries siya. Then, third, we have oil fish, food source export. Then, rabbit fish, aquaculture, local foods source, flying fish, commercial fisheries, food food source. So, sa freshwater naman, meron tayong big head carp, yung potential use niya is lost cost aquaculture, food security. Sa next, freshwater gabi, inland fisheries. Pangasius catfish, commercial fisheries. So, marble gabi, high value fish, aquaculture potential. So, as you can see naman sa picture, parang um, hindi, parang familiar lang yung ano niya, familiar lang yung name, pero yung itsura niya is yung iba is na familiar yung itsura, pero hindi familiar yung name. So, next, yung mga shellfish and invertebrates. So, we have sea cucumbers. So, yung mga sea cucumbers, marami siyang klaseng mga sea cucumbers. Then, yung potential use niya, ine-export yung iba sa markets. Then, yung art clams, for food source. Ito hindi masyadong yung mga hindi nakakikilala dito is hindi siya kinakain. Then yung mussels, water filtration aquaculture. Then Mangrove crabs, high-value seafood aquaculture. Seaweeds and algae. Microalgae or yung use niya naman is biofuel for pharmaceuticals aquafeeds. Then yung sargassum, fertilizer, bioactive compounds, yung or yung ano natin is yung sea grapes, edible seaweeds international. Then yung glaciaria or yung agar production. Other resources, meron tayong jellyfish, food processing, food processing, then yung sea urchin, marami din siyang klase. May nakakakain din, meron din hindi. So, deep sea squid, ito yung mga nasa malalim na siya, nasa malalim na ano na yung ito na yung mga kinakain like binibili natin yung commercial fishing export na siya. Then we have here yung mga appropriate fishing technologies. So meron tayong bottom trolling, um, yung bottom trolling, large weight nets drag along the seafloor to catch demersal, demersal fish and shrimp. So ito is nasa ano siya, kung naalala nyo sa report, sa last na reporter is yung bottom trawler is nasa baba siya, pero yung environmental impact niya is yung high bycatch and destroy seabed habitats and damage coral reefs. So, bakit nga ba siya nakaka-damage ng coral reef? Siyempre, kapag, di ba yung bottom trawling, kapag hinihila yan siya, possible na, matatamaan yung mga coral reefs doon. So, second, yung mid-water trolling. So, when we say mid-water trolling, ito yung na nasa gitna lang siya. Net drag in the water column to catch pelagic fish like herring and mackerels. So, yung environmental impact naman niya is yung less habitat destruction that bottoms trolling but can catch an intended species. So, sa per se naman is large large net is encircling schools of fish often used for tuna and sardines. So yung environmental impact niya is can lead to bycatch including juvenile fish and marine mammals. So yung sa per se naman is yung um, madaming ang makukuha na iba't ibang species pero may makukuha din na mga like yung mga maliliit na species which is sayang siya kasi pwede pa siyang lumaki. Then, yung drift net o yung gill net. So, eto familiar tayo sa gill net kasi ito yung last time sa laboratory natin, ito yung ginamit namin. Ito yung long net that drift with the current, catching fish by their gills. So, yung gill net is nakaka-trap siya ng mga isda using sa ano lang, kapag nilagay mo lang siya, yung isda kasi is sasama siya sa current ng water. Then, mahuhuli na siya, matatrap siya dun sa gill net. So, yung environmental impact niya naman is high bycatch rates, including sea turtles, sharks, and dolphins. So, if possible na makakakuha ng mga sea turtles or yung mga sharks, kasi pinagbabawal man yun siya, so kailangan siyang ibalik sa dagat. If sa dagat man na kukuha or manghuli ng isda. Um, Eto naman yung long lining or yung long line. A main line with ito yung ginamit namin sa laboratory activity na ginawa last time. So, marami siyang isang isang line lang ng, for example, is yung nylon. Then, madami siyang hook na naka nakalagay doon para para makahuli ng isda. So, yung environmental impact niya is high risk of bycatch, seabeds like yung mga turtles, but selective gear modification can reduce. So, dito is usually tina-target lang niya is yung mga malalaking isda like yung mga mackerels or yung mga mackerels, yung mga tuna, ganyan. Next, we have here the handline fishing. Ito yung pinaka-simple na fishing gear, fishing method. So, ito yung ito yung usually na ginagamit lang ng mangingisda kasi hindi siya masyadong magastos, then madali lang siya. Lalo na kapag dalawa lang sila sa bangka or yung panghanap buhay lang yung ginagamit nila. So, yung environmental impact niya is minimal environmental impact due to selective catch. So, like I said is yung handline fishing is iba-iba yung mga nakukuha or kumbaga select lang yung nakukuha niya. Then yung pole and line fishing. Single fishing rod with bait mainly used for tuna. Low environmental impact. Yung environmental impact niya is low bycatch by overfishing risk if not managed properly. So, magkakos siya ng overfishing kapag hindi siya na-manage ng mabuti. Then, we have here the spear fishing. So, ito yung spear fishing, for example na lang sa amin is ginagamit doon sa amin, usually is yung handline fishing and spear fishing. Usually, ginagawa to sa gabi. Fishermen use spears to target species fish. Yung spear fishing is yung usually is mga nagda-dive yun sila. Then, yung environmental impact nila is environmentally friendly but can deplete local fish population if not regulated. So, for me, is yung spear fishing is nakakasira din siya sa coral reef. For example na lang is kapag yung target nilang species is hindi natamaan. So, tatama yun siya sa coral reef. So, magkukos siya ng destruction, destruction sa coral reefs. So, next we have cast net. Yung cast net, circular net thrown by hand, used in shallow waters. Ito yung parang itatapon mo lang siya, then ihila mo lang yung yung tali. Then, yung environmental impact niya is low impact but mo is yung malalaki, hindi mo siya pwedeng gamitin siguro kasi may mga maliliit na isda na nakukuha din. So, next we have trap fishing. or yung mga traps, like yung mga cages, maglalagay ka ng, ilalagay mo siya sa sea floor, then maglalagay ka ng pain para makahuli ka ng isda. So, yung environmental impact niya is can cause ghost fishing if abandoned trap continue to catch marine life. Then, meron tayong beach seine. Etong beach seine, large nets pull uh, ashore by fishers to catch near-shore species. So, yung environmental impact niya can cause habitat degradation and catch juvenile fish. So, more on same lang siya sa mga ibang ibang fishing gear na nakakakuha din ng mga juvenile fish. So, meron tayong leaf net. So, etong leaf net na to is nagamit dito siya sa last time sa laboratory namin. Nets lowered into the water and leaf to trap fish. So, yung impact niya sa environment, less damaging but may contribute to overfishing if overused. So, yung trolling lines with baited hook stowed behind a boat used for pelagic fish. So, yung environmental impact niya, low bycatch but fuel intensive, increasing carbon footprint. So, ginagamitan siya ng makina makahi, maka, para makakuha. Then yung harpoons, spears throw at specific fish, mainly for large species like tuna. So, same lang siya dun sa yung parang siyang pana. So, tina-target niya lang yung kung nagta-target lang siya ng isang species na makikita niya, like yung mga for example is yung tuna. Then yung environmental impact niya naman is highly selective minimal impact. So, next we have travel nets, three-layered gill net designed to entangle fish. So, dito, parang same lang siya sa gilded, pero magkaiba lang sila ng design. Then, yung environmental impact niya is high bycatch, especially for sea turtles and non-target species. So, next, we have dredging. Metal frame nets drag along the seafloor to catch scallops and clams. So, etong fishing gears na to is tina-target niya lang yung mga scallops and clams. So, ano nga ba yung environmental impact niya? Causes severe habitat destruction and disrupt benthic ecosystem. So, yung next, we have push net. Push net, nets attached to boats that push fish into a catching area. Ito yung, ito yung parang, kumbaga yung scoop, kumbaga sa ano is yung scoop net na ginagamit panghuli ng isda. So, nakaka, yung environmental impact niya is can destroy seagrass beds and coral reefs. Same lang siya sa mga ibang fishing gear na nakaka-destroy ng mga coral reefs. So, we have surface long lining, floating long line used for catching tuna and swordfish. You then high bycatch of seabirds, turtles, and shark. Bottom set gill nets placed on the seafloor to catch demersal fish. So, yung environmental impact niya, high risk of entangling marine mammals and turtles. So we have FADs, yung FAD fish aggregating devices. Floating structure used to attract fish commonly paired with perseids. So yung environmental impact niya can increase bycatch and contribute to marine debris when abandoned. So next, we have here the good governance. Um, yung principle ng good governance, we have here the participation and inclusivity. So yung application niya is nag-engage siya sa mga local communities, scientists, and industry stakeholders na gumagawa ng batas and resource management decision, implement co-management approach where government and communities share responsibilities. So dito is may collaboration na nangyayari local uh, local government and yung mga agencies like yung BFAR. Then we have here the transparency, uh, and accountability. When we say transparency and accountability ensures fisheries policies, quotas, and regulation are publicly available, implement. So dito is kailangan kailangan yung mga regulations na pinapatupad is masusunod siya. Then, sustainability and precautionary approach. Set fishing quotas and restriction based on scientific assessment. Apply pre measure when scientific uncertainty exists to prevent explo exploitation. So, dito is nag-aano siya sa parang
So,
binibigay
wala.
so, rule of law and enforcement. Dito sa rule of law, strengthen laws to regulate fishing practices and combat illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. So dito is yung mga rules na-implement, kailangan siyang sundin. Then, kailangan i-report like, um, i-report siya sa malapit na ano, like for example, sa office ng mga, sa barangay, kailangan i-report. Kung hindi man masunod dun sa barangay, is ipapapunta siya dun sa BFAR, for example lang. Then, if hindi talaga susunod sa regulation or sa rules, is may mga may mga violations and penalties na ma ano dun sa taong yun. Next, we have here the science-based decision making. Use data from stock assessment and marine research to guide fisheries policies. Implement adaptive management strategies based on environmental and economic change. So, equity and social justice protect the rights of small-scale fishers and indigenous communities, ensure fair distribution of resources, and prevent monopolization by large commercial fishing enterprises. So, dito is, kumbaga, pinapare, kumbaga, pinaprioritize yung mga small scale fishermen. So, bakit nga ba pinaprioritize sila? Kasi yung mga commercial fishing naman is marami na silang nakukuhang mga isda. So, yung mga small scale fishers naman is kumbaga kumukuha lang sila kung yung para may maibenta lang para sa pang-araw-araw nila. Next, we have ecosystem-based management or yung EBM. Ito naman is manage fisheries with holistic approach considering species interaction, habitat conservation, and marine bio, biodiversity, establish marine protected areas para ma-ensure yung uh, para maprotektahan yung marine areas natin. So adaptive management and resilience, regularly update fisheries policies based on new specific findings and climate change impact. Develop community resilience program to support fishers affected by environmental change. So dito yung uh, like yung for example is yung mga climate change, 'di ba? Kapag masama yung panahon, hindi sila nakakapunta sa laot, ganyan. Then may mga programs or yung kumbaga kung kulang na yung mga nakukuha nilang isda, yung government is may mga program para suportahan yung mga fisherman. So, international cooperation and compliance. Participate in regional fisheries management organization and global agreement like UNCLOS and the FAO Code of Conduct. Work with neighboring countries to manage share fish stock. So, for example na lang is yung 'di ba, yung China, then yung Philippines. So, imbes na mag-agawan sila ng West Philippine Sea, why not na lang mag-share sila. Pero usually kasi sa China is inaangkin nila yung hindi naman sa kanila. So that's example lang 'yon. Then yung next we have here the professional standard. Meron tayong ethical responsibility. So ano nga ba yung ethical responsibility? Yung fisheries professional must act with integrity, fairness, and accountability. For example is yung BFAR or yung mga sabihin na lang natin is yung mga Coast Guard. 'Di ba sila is responsible sila paghuhuli ng or let's say na lang yung mga LGU. So, kailangan maging fair sila, kailangan hulihin nila based dun sa mga nakuha nila, kung yung mga violations nila dun, if naka-align ba dun sa naka-align ba yung violations nila dun sa rules na yun. Then yung scientific rigor and evidence decision based on decision making. Decision should be based on sound scientific research, stock assessment, and ecological data to support sustainable fisheries. So, dito kailangan is naka-specific, naka-ano siya, naka-specific na yung mga kailangan gawin kung ano yung kung ano yung like for example, ito ba is for research, ganyan. Then, yung transparency and public trust. So, ito is pinaka-importante sa professional standard, yung transparency and public trust. So, fisheries governance should involve open communication, access to informed and public reporting to ensure accountabilities. Dito is kailangan yung mga like yung BFAR or yung mga other agencies or officials, kailangan maging open sila para maintindihan din ng mga tao kung ano ba yung mga pinapatupad nilang batas para hindi sila maging para hindi sila para mas lalong hindi sila gagawa ng illegal. Then sustainability and conservation. Policies should promote responsible fishing practices, biodiversity protection, and long-term resource sustainability. Dito is kailangan natin ng kailangan din ng sustainability and conservation. So, bakit nga ba natin kailangan may sustainability? So, kapag hindi kasi natin i-sustain yung or i-conserve yung mga aquatic resources natin, so wala yung mga ano kasi ay next generation is wala nang makukuha mga isda. So, equity and social justice, fair distribution of fishing rights and resources must be ensured, prioritizing prioritizing the needs of small-scale fishers and margin, marginalized communities. Then, competence and continuous learning. Fisheries professionals must engage in lifelong learning, attend trainings, programs. So, dito is, um, yung mga ano kasi, like yung BFAR is nagkakandak yan sila ng mga trainings, seminars, ganyan, para may matutunan din yung mga small scale fishers natin or yung para kumbaga magbibigay din yan sila ng mga alternative livelihoods. Next, adaptive management and resilience. Fisheries governance should be flexible and able to adjust policies based on new scientific findings, climate change, and social shift. So, yung mga na-implement na mga uh, implement na mga rules, pwede siyang pwede siyang pwede siyang i-adjust based dun kung may mga problema ba or kung baga um, basta yun din international cooperation and compliance. Fisheries management should align with global treaties and regional agreements such as UNCLOS, FAO Code of Conduct, and RMO, R, RFMO guidelines. So, stakeholders engagement and participatory governance decisions should be made collaboratively with industry representative, local communities, scientists, and policymaker, policymakers to ensure exclusive management. So dito is nag-uusap-usap dito din may mga representative from other agencies like for example na lang is mga fisherman, may mga representative din sila para maging aware. Then rule of law and ethical enforcement. Fisheries regulations should be clear, enforceable, and free from corruption, ensuring fair and ethical implementation. So, sa ethical standards, meron tayong sustainability and stewardship. stewardship. So, sa ethical standards, dito is ano lang siya dun sa, parang same lang siya dun sa professional standard ganyan. So i ano ko lang siya, i-explain ko lang siya konti kasi naka ano naman siya. So meron siyang transparency and accountability din, fairness and equity, scientist integrity and evidence-based management. Yan. So same lang siya. So wait lang. Sa ano dito sa topic ko na to is kumbaga is governance of fisheries is a complex but essential task. It involves many players, rules, and technologies all working towards one goal. Siyempre, yung goal lang naman niya is mas sustainable. Yung sustainable and maproteksyonan yung aquatic resources natin. With strong governance, proper technologies, and ethical leadership, we can ensure that our oceans and rivers continue to provide foods, may mga yung trabaho, then magandang 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 generation maganda pa para sa next generation. So that's all. Thank you. Kay Par.